Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start sanding this down. If you've watched the other videos, you pretty much know where I'm at. I always start with 220 grit sandpaper. I'm spinning it at about 1900 RPM. And my goal is to get this blank here almost to the same thickness as this bushing, or same diameter. So that's what I'm going to start doing right now. Let me go the other direction. And this will start the smoothing out process. Make sure anytime you do any kind of woodworking, you're going to have dust, or anything that you do that's going to have any kind of dust, whether you think it's harmful or not. Wear some kind of respirator. I wear my glasses also in case anything does come off. When I'm actually turning big pieces, I have my face shield and everything on. This is not too bad. I've never had one come apart, not that it can't. But I start sanding this down, and it's going to give me my initial smoothness. Then after this, I'm going to switch over to my little pads, and that's going to give me up to 12,000 grit. And what you'll see as I go along is this is going to start getting shinier and shinier, clearer and clearer. It's really cool the way it works. So anyway, this is going to probably be a bit of a long video. So if you want to watch it, you can. If you don't, you get bored with it. I understand that too. I don't really do this to make money. I do this for family, friends. It's just something that, you know, I'm retired, got plenty of time. So I'd rather have just something to do, keep me active, keep me moving. And that's part of what I do. So if you've got some good ideas, fantastic. Remember too, not every two people do the same thing, or anybody, you know, might say, oh, I do it this way or that way. Look at it, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there. Find out what they do, see what works for you. Me, I kind of made my own system, just gleaming from a bunch of other woodworkers and people that have turned pens, and I'm enjoying it. There's nothing more fun than seeing the face of somebody that gets something like this as a present. So this is my first stage of sanding after turning. Again, it's 220 grit. The thing you want to watch too is not to get this blank too hot. I've done that in the past and formed a crack or whatever. So I try to go easy. If I start feeling it, because I can feel the heat through the sandpaper, I'll go ahead and stop, let it cool off a little bit, and then continue on. And I have this rag here over my lathe, only because it's iron. I'm going to do some wet sanding. Water gets on it. If I don't catch it, stays there, it'll start to rust. So that's what that child's there for. Not to catch the dust so much, just to catch any kind of water when I start sanding with the water. If this helps you learn or do anything, that's great. If it doesn't, go on to the next one. But believe me, there's a ton of people out there who have a lot of knowledge that you can get. There's not one perfect way to do everything, even though people will tell you that. You'll develop your own style, the only way, what you want to do, the way you want to do it, and just have fun with it. If woodworking became, or turning these pens came to be a frustration for me, I wouldn't be doing it. And I have this lathe, and behind here, you can't see it, is a full-size lathe, a big lathe. So I mean, I can turn stuff from here to 36, 38 inches long, you know, 18, 20 inches in diameter. But I've kind of just bought a bunch of pen blanks and thought I'll mess with this for a while. Only because I can get one done real quick. It's not that hard, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun you can have. Don't make anything you do, whether it's woodworking or whatever, become a chore, because then you're going to get frustrated if something doesn't go right. You're just going to be upset. This video I'm doing now is the second time I'm doing it, only because the first time my camera did about 10 seconds worth of video, and I'm doing this off an iPhone, and it decided it was going to do a update, and so all the rest of the time I spent doing it never showed up. Kind of bummed me out at first, and I thought, I can still go do another one. Got lots of blanks, no big deal. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, I'm going to go right on this edge, try to get it lower, just round off this edge a bit to get it closer to what the bushing is. My goal is to get it almost the exact same size. And then I go to the other side. And while I'm doing this too, I have a caliper over here. And I always keep them down to a certain point and stop. And I found that's the best. And not every pen or pencil kit you put together is going to have the same size diameter of here, only because there's different sizes of the tubes that go in. And so then if you try to go down too far on one that is way bigger, you're going to be into the metal and your thing is going to come apart. So I always keep my calipers handy because I know what the minimum is, and then that way I can go ahead and make sure I don't get down too far. Right now I can take this tip down a little more. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this edge down, and then if I need to really get something down, I can cut or turn this in half, and I can pinpoint one area. Like say I want to do this area. I just pinpoint. I don't know if you can see the sawdust coming out of there, but I'll just do this right on this edge, and that'll shrink it down. And I'll do the same thing on this edge. Let it shrink it down. And by the time I'm done, most of the tool marks from turning it on the lathe will be gone with just this 220. By the time I get to 12,000, this thing's going to look like glass. And that's going to be without any kind of polish, without any kind of chrome. Not chrome, excuse me. Polish or sealant or polyurethane or anything else, or however you do it with your CA glue. It's still going to look like glass before I ever get to that point. So, this is just a long, tedious process. Like I said, hey, I'm retired. You know, it's not a chore to me, it's fun. You know, I like doing it, I like seeing the results. And if you've done any kind of wood turning, you know that every time you do it, you learn something new. You know, things I used to fold fast and think, oh, this is the best way to do it. I've seen somebody else do it a different way and go, man, that looks so much easier. You know, so don't be afraid to experiment. You know, and if you're starting to do some of these things, realize you're going to make some mistakes. I made a bunch of mistakes in the beginning, you know, and so don't worry about it. You know, most of the stuff is pretty cheap. You know, it's not too expensive. And so, you know, nobody likes to waste money, I'm sure, in this day and age. But sometimes it happens, you know, so you just want to stay working with it. And I don't do real aggressive. I mean, I've seen guys take 100 grit, you know, make big grooves in their wood or make big grooves in their acrylic. You know, if you've got good lathe tools, when you turn it down, it'll be fairly smooth. It'll have marks, but it'll be fairly smooth. And so you don't have to worry about too much. It's when you have bad tools and you take big gouges out and stuff like that, that's when you really start getting expensive, because it's just the way it is. You know, it takes a lot more work too. If I can turn this fairly smooth with just my lathe tools, it saves me on having to sand. But I like to get this as close to the diameter as this. Can't really do that with a lathe tool because I don't want to risk my lathe tool going into the metal. So I finish it up with a little bit of sandpaper. You know, again, if you're under a tight time frame and you don't have the time to spend, I can understand you moving fast, get it done, and be on to the next one. For me, I'm in no rush. You know, I find every time I rush doing some kind of woodworking or some kind of project, I built cabinets and turned vases and platters and, you know, all sorts of stuff. Every time I got in a hurry, it seems like it's just not the way I wanted it. So I just slow down. Something that I could probably do in a day might take me 2 or 3 just because I want to get it right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my calipers. I'm going to wipe this down. I'm going to get my calipers and get a dimension on that bad boy. Well, I guess I got to find them first. All right, I'll zero it out. And this side right here is 0.563. And this side is 5.8. So this side's got to come down. I leave the center a little bit bigger. This is 6.2, only because just the way it fits my hand. So you can kind of do it any way you want. So this side here has to come down more. This side's pretty much where I want it. So I'm going to take and this is not even warm. I mean, it's a little warm, but it's not hot. So I know I can keep going. And this is turning at about 1800 RPM. So you have an idea of what kind of speed I'm using. I don't know if you can see the dust coming off of this as I try to take this down. I don't try to be real aggressive, but I do want it to look good when I'm done. So I really want to get that down about as close as I can get. Then every once in a while I'll check it. If it's really hot or I can hardly hold on to it, I'll let it cool off because I don't want it to get so hot it expands anything on the inside and then we wind up with a crack. And you would think it would take a lot of work, and I guess you could probably take it down faster with a different grit, but I just like taking it down nice and slow. Make sure it doesn't get too hot. If it does, I'll let it cool off and see how close we are now. Okay, we're down to 5.7. This is still down about 5.5 or 0.55, excuse me. And this is 0.57. So this one's a little bigger. It tapers this way, so I'll probably make this the tip of the pencil and make that the top side. Okay, so now what I do, I'm going to wipe this off again, and I'm going to start with my sanding block. They're not really blocks, they're little sponge things with different grits of sanding. But as I'm doing it, if you're watching it, you're going to see how this winds up looking. Like right now, it's pretty rough. You may or may not be able to see it. I am just set up on an iPhone, so I can't really zoom in or anything. But there's still some marks on it. So I start with my water here. And I'll start with my first grit. Like I say, it goes from this up to 12,000. And I just have it going at the same speed. And you'll start seeing it get shiny as I do this. My goal is not to take off a whole lot. My goal is just to get some of the major nooks and problems with it out. And in between each grit, I'll stop, I'll sand this direction because the piece is turning that direction, scratch it up a little bit, and then go to the next one. And as I keep going, you're going to see this get shinier and shinier. Now I don't have to turn this off. I just do it, I don't know, safety maybe, maybe not. And just that first grit has taken almost all the scratches out from the lathe tools. So now what I'll do while that's sitting there by hand, I'll just turn this and rough this up a little bit. You can see it on there. I'll wipe that off. And I'll start it again. And I'll go to the next grit. Doesn't take a lot, just a little bit. And that's really all I need to do on each piece. So it makes it real easy. And it makes it actually pretty fast. I wipe it off again. Starting to get a little bit of a shine to it. Go to number 3. Okay, go across. Then I'll start turning. Sand it down some more. And if I realize that it's not how thick I want it, it's too thick still, nothing to put regular sandpaper back on it and go through these steps again. I've done that. I turned one, I thought, man, this is beautiful. Then I put the pen together and it wasn't so beautiful. So I had to take it back off, do it all again. Turn it down a little more, sand it down a little more, and go through these steps. But you have to decide if that's something you want to do, don't want to do. Me, I kind of like it. You know, like I say, retired, don't have a whole lot I need to do. So why not just do this? Or do something bigger on my lathe, or make a cabinet or something. I mean, over the years, I've built almost everything in my little shop here is on wheels. So that way I can move it, because it's not a big shop. So I can just move everything around, get to what I need when I need it. And even this lathe here that looks like it's pretty steady right now, I have drop down casters. And so all I've got to do is drop those casters or lift them, and I can roll. Move this out of the way with no problem. The bench sitting here is probably one of the first things I ever did. It's not the best looking or anything else, but it's what I did. And it'll hold 400 pounds. Again, not a massive bench, but for what I need, works fine. So this is grit number 5. And by now you should hopefully be able to see some type of a reflection in it. Put this here, dry this off again. Go to number 6. Again, I rough it up a little bit. Each grit gets a little finer. You can see it on there. Now I just put a little water in here. Turn it back on. Go to number 6. These little pads are great. And doing it with water helps to keep everything a little cooler. Now you don't have to turn off, I may have said this already, your lathe. I just do it. I got a variable speed. I could cut it down to nothing basically if I wanted to. Down to like 100, 150 RPM. Just turn it off. All right, now we're on number 7. Same thing, gonna go across. There won't hardly be anything come off by this time. So you really don't even see much. Get a little water on there. Turn it on. Let this bad boy go. Now I go to number 8, and there's 2 left. Right now it's getting so to the point where any water on there just beads up, almost like if I had wax on it. Now I go to the next one. This is number 8. Still doing the same routine. So you don't really see anything coming out. No dust, no nothing, because it's getting that smooth of a finish. This is number 8. And the last one's coming up, number 9. By this time, you should be able to see a big difference, even on the camera, even though it's not the best, to see what it looks like. And this is the last one. And the way I can tell, I have a fluorescent light, well actually it's an LED light, above my head. And when I go to do these things, I can see a straight line from the bulb. So if I see little nuances in those lights, then I know I have a high spot or low spot, and I can adjust it. And this is the final one. Turn that off. These are going to have to dry. I'll dry this, then I'll go back and pick up a blank to show you what these things look like before I started, in case you didn't see the video before this. I'll show you what they look like. Get this off here. So this is what one of the blanks look like, so you can get an idea of what it looks like now. I don't know if you can see the different colors in it, but that's how this started. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and the next thing is I'll be putting this pen together, so I'll let you know how that goes.